Seem to move every time. Call the meeting of the Utilities Committee of Tuesday, October 9th, 2012 to order. Ms. Secretary, show all members present. Would everyone please stand for the invocation and the pledge? Invocation be led by Mr. Ken Dawson.
Let us pray. Father, we give you glory and praise again, O God, and we thank you for this day. This is the day that you have made, and we'll rejoice and we're glad in it. Father, we thank you for the opportunities that you've given us to serve. For, Lord, you call those greatest, O God, who will serve those, O Lord God, and to help and to give any way that they can. So we thank you for the opportunity. We pray for your wisdom, O God. Guide us in the decisions being made. This committee, O God, and administration and the council, Father, so that we will make the decisions, O God, that will benefit the people of Ascension Parish. We give you all the glory and praise in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comment period. Anyone wishing to speak on any agenda item will be given 3 minutes. You come up and sign in with the secretary when that item comes up on the agenda. Number 4 is a certificate of substantial completion for the CDBG Donaldsonville Sewer Plant Improvement Sludge Removal. Ben Laurie, Chief Engineer, Bob Turner, Engineer, Ms. Martha Collins. Mr. Ben Laurie.
All right, you should have in your packet the certificate of substantial completion for the Donaldsonville Sludge Removal Project. Asking for your recommendation of an approval. Project's done. A punch list has been provided to the contractor, and they're working on cleaning those things up, and this will allow us to enter the 40-day lien period.
All righty, need a motion to accept. Motion by Councilman Kluot, second by Councilman Joseph. Any discussion? Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, Ben. Item number 5 is the DEQ presentation. Mr. Chuck Berger, I believe, is here with us tonight from DEQ. Chuck, we want to thank you for coming out tonight and giving us the information you're going to impart to us on where we are in the parish as far as sewer is concerned and our waterways.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me here tonight. I want to take a few moments to just kind of give a general overview about how we manage and address water quality at DEQ. One of the first things, it's all required by federal regulations. Federal regulations require that, standards be set for water bodies for different pollutants. Once that's done, every 2 years, we have to go in and assess those water bodies. We collect data throughout the year during each cycle, and we assess those water bodies every 2 years and produce a report. It's called our 303D list, or list of impaired water bodies. Now, in the past, the requirement has been that once it's on that 303D list, you got to prioritize the water body for development of TMDLs for whatever pollutants it's impaired for. Across the nation, TMDLs didn't get developed in a timely manner, so there were many lawsuits across the nation, consent decrees, and we were under one of them. EPA Region 6 was sued by the Sierra Club back in 1996, and a result, starting from about 2000 till March of 2012, we were under consent decree to do, I don't know the total number of TMDLs, somewhere on the order of maybe 600 or 700 were done. We completed our consent decree requirements in March 31st of 2012. DEQ itself is concentrated mostly on dissolved oxygen impairments, as they are more complex and require modeling, and also they tend to have quite a bit of impact on the local communities, being sanitary dischargers. So there were a few water bodies that were part Ascension Parish water bodies, and can we bring up the map? There. I've got a map here of Ascension Parish. Quite a few of those water bodies were initially named on our consent decree, and luckily New River and Blind River were removed from the consent decree because they were not on the 2008 303D list. But we did develop a TMDL for Bayou Manchac. We also developed for Grays Creek, which is not in the Ascension Parish, but we did one for Lower Amite. And as you can see on the west side of the river, Ascension Parish also includes the subsegments for Grand Bayou and Little Grand Bayou, and then Bayou Chevret, Verret and Chevril and several others, and also Bayou Lafourche. One thing I want to step back and say is the way we manage the water bodies is we partition them into hydrologic management units. We call those subsegments. And we assess each of those subsegments so that when if it fails assessment, a TMDL has to be developed for that subsegment for whatever pollutant it was impaired for. I was asked to come and talk about some of the impairments that you have now, and I just want to kind of give a general overview of the whole process, so kind of make it to where you can understand. Bayou Manchac, we developed a TMDL for dissolved oxygen. There were about somewhere on the order of 240 discharges going into the watershed, both in Ascension Parish and East Baton Rouge Parish. Based on the 2010 303D list, the water body is impaired for chloride, fecal coliform, dissolved oxygen, sulfates, and total dissolved solids. Now, keep in mind that chloride and sulfates are both components of total dissolved solids as well, along with other metals. And also keep in mind as I'm talking about these that DEQ is currently in the process of reevaluating criteria for the minerals, which would be your total dissolved solids, chloride and sulfates, and for dissolved oxygen. What we found is in many cases, and especially for your minerals and all, that the criteria may be overly protective. So we're going back and reevaluating it and trying to come up with some new numbers that are still protective of water quality, but probably more appropriate. Same thing for dissolved oxygen. We're using our models that we developed for TMDLs to go back and help us to reevaluate those dissolved oxygen criteria. If you look on the west side of the river, we have the state also divided into ecoregions, which is an ecoregion is basically an area where you would expect the water body to have the same characteristics and act similarly. On the west side of the river, you're in what we call the lower Mississippi River alluvial plains. It also extends across the west side of the river. We were successful at revising the criteria on that side from 5 milligrams per liter to 2.3 milligrams per liter in the summer. It's still 5 in the winter, but the summer applies to 9 months instead of 6. So it's actually, that's more of a break there. We're thinking that much of the ecoregion on the east side of the river may be, 2.3 may be appropriate. And we're looking at the data, and we're still reevaluating it. So it may be something that less than it is right now, where it can't be sure if it's going to be, 2.3, but it's, it may be less than what it is right now. So keep that in mind as I'm talking about some of these things. What I'm wanted to keep in mind is that things may change, the impairments may change. The lower Amite River, from the Diversion Canal to Lake Maurepas, that water body is impaired for chlorides, mercury in fish tissue, dissolved oxygen, sulfates, and total dissolved solids. The subsegment for the Amite River Diversion Canal is impaired for chlorides, mercury in fish tissue, and also in total dissolved solids. Blind River, based on the 2010 list, was impaired for chlorides, mercury in fish tissue, sedimentation or siltation, total dissolved solids, and turbidity. New River is impaired for fecal coliform and dissolved oxygen. And then maybe of a little bit less concern to you, because the portion that you have on the west side of the river, the portion that you have of those water bodies is right at the top, and there's, I don't know how many, facilities and things like that are in that area. The assessment sites are farther south, closer to Lake Verret. But the subsegment for Bayou Verret, Chevril, Cinnamon, and Grand Bayou was impaired for chlorides. Bayou Lafourche had no impairments. Of course, the Mississippi River is part of it too, and it had no impairments. Grand Bayou and Little Grand Bayou had no impairments. So that's just kind of summation. But like I said, we're reevaluating criteria for minerals and dissolved oxygen, so it may change. And we're looking to get something done to EPA later next year. Okay. So it's quite an effort that we're going through right now to do all this. The other thing I wanted to talk about was some of the TMDLs that we have out there now. We developed a TMDL for Bayou Manchac for dissolved oxygen. The, based on the current criteria of 5 milligrams per liter, modeling has shown that it would take about 100% reduction of the man-made load to meet the criteria. We also took a phased approach on this TMDL because we knew we were going to be looking at changing the criteria, or reevaluating the criteria, I should say. And if the criteria was 2.3, reductions of man-made loads would be about 75%. Lower Amite River, it was going to require about a 30% reduction of man-made loads, but we were able to attribute that mostly to non-point loads. We didn't reduce any of the facilities. We did reduce facility permit limits in Bayou Manchac. So that's a thing that I imagine is going to be a big concern to you. And the other TMDLs, we had TMDLs for Bayou Verret, Bayou Lafourche, Grand Bayou, and Little Grand Bayou. Generally, those were reductions in non-point load and no reductions on facilities. They're very sparsely populated and not many facilities down there. So it was able to reducing facilities, just showed would not do much of an impact, have much of an impact. So one of the things, with the TMDLs that we have out there for both Lower Amite and Bayou Manchac, we took a phased approach, and that allowed us to give the facilities a little more time to meet this criteria, because that's going to be a huge burden, you know. So it's going to take money, it's going to take a lot of effort, a lot of organization. So by using the phased approach, it's something that's a tool that's out there. You know, it was recommended by counterparts at EPA, said, hey, look at this. If you're in the process of changing the criteria, this may be a tool you can use. So we chose to use it. As I said, now we're in the process of reevaluating the criteria, and you know, hopefully think it'll all work out as far as the timing of everything. Do you all have any questions at this point?
President Martinez?
Well, you said a lot, but I don't really know exactly what you said, because you know, I'm trying to put two and two together, and bottom line is, you know, 3 or 4 years ago we came in and it was gloom and doom that you know, especially in Manchac, that in 3 years everybody was going to have to meet these standards. A lot of the local guys that deal with the sewer every day, that own the package plants, and you know, we were trying to, I mean, I'm trying to get a grasp here as to what are you saying in Manchac, that it's overloaded now. You're saying at this point it's 100%. If you change the criteria, maybe it's 75%.
What it would appear is that load reduction is still going to be required, even if we change the criteria.
Okay, that's basically what we need to know, in which direction we need to head in. 'Cause if you continue to change the criteria, it makes it really tough if we are planning on investing a lot of money into a program, and then the program keeps changing, and we keep shooting at a target, and then we kind of miss and hit. And
I understand, and I think you're on target with what you're doing. What we're doing is has been more or less apparent through the years in South Louisiana, where you've got these water bodies that have a very low gradient, don't flow except maybe when it rains, and it's very hot. You can have low dissolved oxygens, and the fish still survive. You know, that's what we're looking to prove. And a lot of our water bodies probably never reach the 5, you know, on their best days. So what we feel is that the 5 is inappropriate for many South Louisiana water bodies. That's why we're doing it, bottom line. So, but, you know, from what we've seen with the modeling things, is that even if we are able to revise it, because there's no guarantee with that, and able to come up with some numbers that are more appropriate, the load reductions are still required.
basically the same thing as the ozone levels. I mean, the criteria and the numbers keep changing, and if you hit one target number, then the next year the numbers change and kind of.
You know, we can't just change them because we do have to get approved by EPA.
No, but EPA does approve. I know since probably in the past 10 years it's been changed 3 times. I would
I don't think so. I know we've changed it for the, what we call the UAA that I mentioned of the air on the west side, and that's the
I'm
only
talking
one I
about the
really know
ozone.
Oh, ozone.
Yeah, I'm not talking about sewage.
I'm talking about water
Yeah,
quality.
Yeah.
So-
But anyway, no, I'm just saying that I'm comparing it because if the program keeps changing to where you can't meet the respect, and I understand from a perspective, I mean, what we need to do is totally get out of Manchac and take our affluents and our treated water into the river and get it into a bigger body to where we're not putting that amount of pollutants into the body itself on Manchac.
That would be a good thing.
Right.
Randy?
Yeah, Chuck. Quick question. I got a couple questions, but a quick one is, the parish is north of us. Water flows downhill. Okay, you know, we got Iberville that we have some influx of water in the Bayou Manchac. We got East Baton Rouge. We got Livingston. We got East Baton Rouge into Manchac. We got East Baton Rouge and Livingston into the Amite River. How are we judged based on the water here versus what's being pushed down to us one way or the other? I mean, do you you have checkpoints that basically identifies the exact thing coming from the exact parish or governing body or whatever?
It's a good question, and you know, you should be concerned about that. I can understand where you're coming from.
In other words, we can improve, but if it keeps flowing down worse from
If you do
above us,
everything
then
you can,
we're going to
if
continually
it's-
have to spend
yeah.
money and build, revamp, remodify, you know, and do things.
If you can make all the changes and spend all the money that you have and still not, meet your goal, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Because of the other side.
Well,
you
we
know.
inherit the earth of the ones above us, the
Well,
water especially.
One thing is that, what I would recommend is that do everything you can. And that makes it easier for EPA, for us to, to work with you and to go to EPA, Because
Yeah.
a lot of time it gives us more armor to go to EPA and say, this is what should be done. So what we've been telling people in the past is that, organizations like yourself, we've met with the parish on many times, is that, have a plan that enables us to makes it easier for us to work with you and justify what we do.
Yeah.
So, I can't really say about, what other people are doing. That's, you have no control over that, so neither do I.
Well, that's, I'm just
So-
wondering, like at the end of Grays Creek or Amite River at the parish line, is there a sampling point before it actually gets to us versus a sample at the bottom, And-
We generally, we try to sample at what we call the pour point. That's where, down the bottom of the watershed where everything's draining out. It's, most of our subsegments are at least, to the best of our ability, based on watersheds. When you get into South Louisiana, that's very hard to do, and our subsegments may not match the watershed. But, so we've got roughly 478 subsegments around the state that we monitor. We do, we have it on a cycle so that every water body gets monitored once a year. And when they do that once, they do it 12 times for a year's period. So, each water body gets monitored every 4 years. So that's quite a lot of sites and a lot of sampling. Usually we have one site per water body, and it's chosen to be representative of the water body. If some of those sites may be tidal, it may be more appropriate to locate that site somewhere towards the middle of the watershed because it's not all really draining in one direction. Your site is and all those are located on the map that I have, so you have that. Your site for Bayou Manchac is located at site 142. It's right there at Highway 190. So, and that is the site that got it is listed as impaired.
Okay.
So,
I guess, and another question you talked about, definitely things that would help if we had more fresh water flowing through and bringing it down. Anything has been looked into for us, putting fresh water into Bayou Manchac from Mississippi River, putting fresh water into New River, from from the Mississippi River. You know, try to give us something to work with, you know, things like that. So you saying that the site that you're sampling the Amite River for us is at Highway 190?
The site for sampling on Bayou Manchac is at Highway 190.
Manchac
Yeah.
190, I apologize. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Councilman Sadler?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chuck, this question relates to both comments made by the President.
Can I say just one thing before we go ahead? We wanted to talk about, what's on the, there's roughly, if I remember correctly, there was about 90 some odd sites on the East Baton Rouge Parish side, 90 something facilities, roughly around 100 to 150 on the Ascension Parish side.
Okay.
I believe you just answered my question. You had mentioned 240 discharges, I believe was your term for East Baton Rouge.
It's
Ascension
roughly,
Parish.
I don't remember
And
exactly.
so we're the line share of that?
Huh?
We're the line share of that, 100 and,
Yeah, it's a lot of those facilities, if I remember correctly, were around that, gosh,
well, roughly you're saying
Blind
we're
Rivers.
150 and EBR would be maybe 90 is the numbers I just.
yeah, roughly.
Okay. Now, you also say when it comes to TMDLs, as it relates to the Bayou Manchac, do we need 100% reduction in discharge if we're going to use that 5? Not
For the
2.3,
DO
but
criteria 5.
So even if we, and this relates, like I say, both to the President's question of taking that waste and it's going currently with these 150 discharges and put it into a large body like the Mississippi, but as Councilman Kluat just said, things run north, south, down anyway, and EBR is still putting 90 facilities and so forth. I don't know, just with numbers of them, I don't know who's putting, like one facility might be putting in 10x more than another, even though the dichotomy is 90 to 150 and so forth. I'm wondering how much would that help the problem if we totally took all of the offenders in our parish that are, and I use that word in quotes, let's go back to use this word, dischargers into the Manchac, and we took that away. The problem's still there, and then we'd still have runoff north to south to some of these other places. Is that correct?
Let me see if I understand you correctly.
I'm not sure I understand myself, sir, but I'm learning.
I think what you're asking is if we take some of the bad actors, so to speak, out of the equation, do we then meet criteria? Is
Yeah,
that-
do we get rid of the problem, and even with that, will we still have runoff from the bayou that comes into our parish because the 150, the 90 discharges that would be in EBR would continue to do that?
Well, if
And that's an
you,
assumption.
if the question is that, okay, if Ascension Parish does everything it does and all its facilities are doing well and meeting limits, but the water body's still impaired and things are not going well in the other parish, or things are not going well in the parish, will the water body still be impaired or not? That I can't answer.
Not just that, but I mean, are we still going to get the blame? Is it a point source problem that when you're detecting it there, they can still say Ascension Parish is part of the guilty group of parties that are polluting that water body, or how is that going to work? Up at the NACO meeting, I attended a thing, for example, it said wherever you sample, I don't know if I got this right, and let's say you're not even polluting that body of water, but upstream it's being polluted, but they sample it as it passes through your jurisdiction, that you'd still be held accountable for that from a standpoint of the federal watchdog agencies such as the EPA and the DEQ and so forth.
Well,
Is that correct thinking? I'm not asking if that's the policy, if it's correct, but is that what they're doing? Is that what they're saying at a federal level?
well, they want to, if the water body's list is impaired, they want to, and the TMDL is developed, they want to see that the TMDL is fully implemented. And what happens with the TMDL is developed is we come up with permit limits for the facilities and non-point load reduction. So those permit limits get put into the facility
Well,
permits.
let me just make the question real pointed, and I think the president was maybe headed there without saying it. I don't mean to put words in Tommy's mouth, but how much is our feet in this parish to the fire to quit polluting Bayou Manchac from a government watchdog agency standpoint? And how quick are we going to get in trouble if we do nothing? Or are we going to get in trouble? I mean, I don't put any words in my mouth.
all those questions I can't answer, but I do think that you stand the risk of not being able to get permits.
Let me ask,
Run out of room.
at what point your agency is gonna say, we're not gonna issue any more permits into buy a man shack, no matter if it's coming from Ascension or East Baton Rouge Parish? How close, I guess, what everybody's kind of looking for is how long will it be before that order would maybe come down to where we would have to look at that? Now, is that hinging upon what happens in the election here, the federal election? Is there some rules that might change at that point or might not change? Is that kind of why we kind of
Is that why we're here?
if we go out and acquire some of these existing systems that's out there that's evidently can't meet the standards no matter what, okay? And if a new business comes in and wants to get a permit to discharge in by a man shack, at what point are you going to say, hold on, we're going to take this system down because it can't meet the standards, and we're not going to allow anybody else to discharge in the by a man shack, no matter if it's East Ascension, East Baton Rouge? Are we close to that point, I guess is the question.
I would say that you probably are relatively close. Is that DEQ as an agency, we do not want to deny. I mean, we want to be able to encourage growth and things of that matter, but sooner or later, our hands are tied, and legally, we can't allow a facility that's going to exceed permit limits by law. And sooner or later, I can't say where exactly the buck will stop, but before, when I was here with doom and gloom, so to speak, I want to say that I'm trying to be more encouraging now because of what we're doing, and we're working to help the parish, and that's why we've been talking with Mr. Dawson there, and I would say that as long as you have a plan of this nature and are working with us, then that's why I say it makes it a lot easier for us, because EPA is also wanting to know what we're doing to help y'all, to work with y'all, because they know we're working with y'all, and they'd like to hear more about that.
And let me say that we appreciate it. We know that you've been patient. We thank the secretary for that and everyone else.
I will say
And we hope that we can spring into action here, but we don't want to. I don't want to duplicate anything. I don't want to go and buy something that we have to, as a parish, go in and automatically we end up acquiring this system, and then bam, here comes EPA and Mr. Parish. You have to.
I can't say exactly what will happen, and we
Right.
could talk to somebody enforcement about that, but I have seen in the past, same thing happened in other areas where they developed a new regional plant, and they're taking many other smaller plants offline that weren't operating well and maybe were under compliance order. They would take that into consideration, maybe through extending timeline or something. It's their problem doesn't necessarily, will not reflect badly on you, is
Right.
what it is. And I don't know exactly how that would all work out. That would be for somebody more in water enforcement, but that's something that we could work with you on.
Chuck, real quick, and one of the things that I've learned here in the last several months is DEQ is broken down into several different areas. What area of DEQ are you working in currently? Because obviously you're not with enforcement. You just said that. So what part of DEQ are you with?
I am in the water permits division.
Okay.
I do, basically, I'm an engineer, do water quality modeling. So that's part of the TMDLs. I've been part of the TMDL program since I started in '96.
Okay.
So
the 5 limit that you spoke of on the waterways, you mentioned that is possibly because of our water flows and sheds in the Amite Manchac area and around the parish that may be a little bit high because of the fact that a lot of these streams are dependent upon rainwater. It's not just a constant flow through it. So what are y'all looking at possibly settling on, or can you give me an answer as far as, are you going to drop it to a 3?
I can't say what we're going to come up with in this area, I can say that in the lower Mississippi River alluvial plains on the west side of the river, we came up with a 2.3 for the summer and a 5 for the winter.
Okay.
The summer, typically, when we say summer, our months might be from March to November, 6 months or something. That summer is actually 9 months long. So, and I think winter is December, January, February. So that is, it's something that they found was more appropriate for those water bodies. Because when the criteria was set many years ago, this basically, my understanding is that EPA came down and said that if you do not have data to show that it should be something else, you will use a 5. They have a publication where they have nationally recommended criteria. If you don't have anything to support something else, then 5 is what we recommend. So, my guess is that it was adopted back, I'm not sure exactly when, but, we've seen there's many water bodies where we feel they probably just never did that when nobody was there,
So, and I want to be careful how I phrase this next question, because I don't want to cause any undue stress on folks. We have a lot of people in this parish that use our waterways for different things, fishing and sports and recreation, those type of things. Where are we at as far as, and you mentioned mercury and some other issues with the fish, what does DEQ look at to the point to where they say it is no longer viable for you to use these waterways for either fishing or swimming or skiing or whatever, boating activities?
On the part of mercury, that those impairments are usually come about by DHH has issued some sort of fish advisory there, fish consumption advisory. And our part is that we show that as impaired. We list it as impaired. That is my understanding. Now, for some of the other parameters, talked about how we assess the water bodies every 4 years, and every 2 years we produce a report. That's.
Mr. Sadler?
Yeah, just one more question. I want to be sure I captured. For Biomanchac, the list I have is chlorides, fecal coliforms, total dissolved solids, sulfates, dissolved oxygen. Did I miss another one?
Chloride, fecal coliform, dissolved oxygen, sulfates, and total dissolved solids.
Okay, so that's a comprehensive list.
Yeah, and keep in mind that, like I said, chloride, sulfates, and total dissolved solids are all kind of closely
Right.
related.
Right. So, but the main thing that we're going to be held accountable for, though, is TMDLs as it relates to all these things. I mean, like, I guess we'd get in trouble for fecal coliforms. It's obviously a big health issue. And I am concerned about the comments of, I guess it was Councilman Kluot and Mr. Johnson about being able to use our bodies to fish and swim. That would be a terrible thing if that ever happened in this parish.
Yeah.
Can we get a list of the lower Mead, Blind River, New River, Verret, all of it, Manchac?
List of the impairments that I gave?
Impairments, please.
Yeah.
As well as the map that you presented here tonight, sir.
Yeah, the electronic version of that y'all can have.
Would appreciate it. Thank you.
The list of impairments is also out on our website as well.
Okay.
If somebody, I can direct them to where it's at, they can find it.
Yep, just an email with a link is as good if you don't want to
Okay.
do anything. Yeah, that'd be fine.
Mr. Chair.
I can do that, but I will give you this list as well
Okay.
that I already have.
Greatly appreciate it.
Councilman Joseph?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, you say that as long as we are progressing in our plan that we have, okay, and you would give us time, but still the question is, I'm going back the time I've been here. There's always been pressure from y'all to tell us we must do something. Then you say we have the timeline, you have to do something. I mean, we're trying to push a program in this parish, and every time y'all come up here, you say we have time. One minute you say we have time, then the next time you say we don't have time. Now you're coming here now and telling us
as long as you're doing something, we'll work with you. And then 6 months from now, or 7 months from now, you come back and say, oh, y'all got to get this done right now. I mean, we can't be standing up here going to our public, we need to implement a program, and we got to go out there with a tax or last minute, this have to be done. I mean, we need some direction too to tell us what time limit do we have for the public and for us. I mean, right now, we chasing our own tail. Look like it to me. I've been here and.
There's a lot of things I can't predict. And like I said, we're working to revise the criteria, and I, can't tell you for sure that it's going to be approved or not. What I can tell you is there is a TMDL out there that has a timeline in it of 3 years to meet the new criteria. Many of those facilities will not be able to meet that criteria. What we've been recommending is that probably the biggest solution is DEQ. We cannot tell you exactly how to do it, but we can tell you that the water quality has to meet criteria. If all of those facilities were upgraded and to some new technology, that would be fine. But I am not seeing that out there as far as what I've seen with existing small facilities. The best thing that we can recommend, or that we have been recommending, is regionalization. That has not changed.
What, excuse me.
And I've actually done a few calculations that I presented some time back when I was here, that looking at Gray's Creek, looking at the facility they have out there in Denham Springs. We had some sampling done before the plant was rebuilt, or they had their new plant, and I had some loading afterwards, and it was about a 75% load reduction. That was before they took in 1,800 more customers that were either facilities that weren't performing as well, or they were unsewered communities. That's just the idea of the type of impact.
And Chuck, you may not be able to answer this question, maybe towards more someone in enforcement, but out of all the private systems that we have in the parish today, do you know how many of them are under consent decree?
No.
So one of the things that you said earlier is that even though our watershed levels may get reduced, the TMDL loading that's going to be allowed off of individual as well as public private sewer systems is going to continue to get tighter. It's going to go down, so they're not going to be allowed to discharge the current levels that they're at today. So even though Bayou Manchac, for an example, or any one of the other watersheds we talked about tonight may be a 5 and you may drop that to a 3, an individual such as my own home, the levels that's coming out of my MODAD is not going to be continue permitted to where it's going to be allowed to give off higher or the same discharges. Those kind of requirements are going to continue to go down as far as what comes out of the individual tail lines into the ditches and the bayous and streams around the parish.
I would say you're pretty close to correct on there. We do not permit individual homes, but unsewered communities definitely are a part of the load going in. Now, what I agree with you is that as the parish is growing, as you get more and more people, more and more communities, things like that with their own plants, limits get tighter. This is not a problem that's isolated down here. It is in other areas as well. So the need is for as you grow, you get more stringent permit limits. Or what I've said before out here is that what may have been appropriate when we were more rural parish may not be appropriate now. So we just are looking to help the parish get to where they need to be, rather than we don't like to shut people down. Nobody wants that to happen, and I don't, so we would prefer to work with the parish and do everything we can.
I'm trying to understand the 3. We were basically told that in January they had new guidelines that came into effect this past January. If I'm, say, an operator of one of these facilities, when I go back to renew my license, what you're telling me is that I have 3 years to get into compliance? Is that basically what I'm trying to understand?
The way that TMDL was written up is that the permit for a particular facility, its first permit renewal after the TMDL was approved, which was 2011 sometime, for the first part of that permit, for the first 3 years, they would have their existing limits, and then it would go to the new limits. That's the way it was written up.
Right, no. Do you see a possibility of that changing?
Not much.
So that gives us a time frame. That's kind of what
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to be able. We know that some of the existing facilities, we were told that some of the existing facilities would never meet the new standards. Okay.
That is true.
Okay. So when those systems,
The new limits are generally going to be
Right.
5.25, 5 milligrams per liter BOD, 2 for ammonia, and 5 for DO.
so when they reached their time limit, if they did not come into compliance, I guess basically what happens to those units?
Well, it makes them subject to compliance orders.
But they still, no matter what compliance order you get, they probably still won't be able to meet the standards.
Well,
So
that
that's
I can't answer.
okay.
There are several facilities in the area that are under. I can't talk too much about them, but it does happen.
We just want the public to understand that there is a major problem out there, that this is something that's not going to go away. You've been working with us. You've been very patient with us. You're not our adversary. You're actually a working partner.
Now, I apologize if I
Yeah.
don't get my message across clearly, but
And the
I'm
whole
a
thing
little bit
is that
nervous.
we don't want people to think that there's not a problem.
Yeah.
You know, and the clear thing is that we have a problem that we have to deal with. Now we're going to have to deal with it sooner or later. We're trying to let the public know, or we need to know, that if we phase in what we're trying to do and take an approach from that area, putting in regional plants, that this is going to get us started in the right direction, but it won't be the cure at this point. The cure is going to be to take to put a central system and take everything to the river, to the bigger streams.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we need to work on that. But we don't want them to think that this is going to go away. At some point, it's going to come back
yeah.
to the parish, and we're going to have to deal with it.
When I came to you previously, I think I came to one of the master plan meetings, and then I came to a previous utilities meeting. We were first coming out with the TMDL, and we had the existing criteria of 5 milligrams per liter. And the doom and gloom associated with that is still there. That hasn't changed. We knew we were changing we actually public noticed this thing twice, this Biomancheck TMDL, because we tried to do it with no implementation in the beginning because we don't want to implement permit limits that we feel may be incorrect based on the wrong standard for the stream. So that was not allowable. So we put something in there that was more reasonable, more of an interim step, because we didn't know exactly where the criteria is going to be. We took our best judgment, and we had to have a sort of interim target, and that's why we used a phased approach. So nothing has changed with the criteria 5, is only the introduction of interim criteria for our phased approach, and the reductions with that are still 75%. So that's quite a bit, you know.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Dawson.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, just a quick question that came from the audience as well. As the reduction in TMDL, okay, is that across the board for every facility, or is it going to be associated with maybe some instances of flow or use, loading, and that kind of thing?
It was associated with every facility.
Every facility. So
Yeah.
across the board, that reduction is quite.
Yeah. What we did is that, facilities that were normally permitted at 30 went to like 10. If they were normally permitted at 10, they went to 5,
Anything else, gentlemen? Chuck, again, we appreciate it. We appreciate the partnership and you guys working with us. We've got a pretty large hill to climb with some educational stuff to not only educate ourselves but the citizens of the parish to make sure that we're coming forth with hopefully will be the best program for us to get us out of the issues that we are currently having. So we look forward to working with you and your partners at DEQ in the future to get us down that road. So thanks for coming tonight.
And
Appreciate
just to
it.
confirm, he wants a list of the impairments, and we can show him where, perhaps after the meeting tonight, if you go on the website, we can show him how to get to it on the website. And I'm also aware too, that the parish is working on a monitoring program. And we've been working with them on that and talking about where our sample sites are and things like that. So, you know, if they're at the point when they get the plan ready, if they want us to look at it, then we will do so. So,
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
thanks.
Item number 6 on the agenda is the Highway 73 treatment system. Mr. Ken Dawson.
Yes, sir. As you know, the actual sewer piping on Highway 73 is ongoing. One of the initial proposals was to, when they got to a certain stage, that we will have a treatment system located to temporarily treat some of that waste that will be going into their system. So with that, I have Mr. Bob Turner, who has been working on that, and will give us kind of an update of where we are. We are moving forward on it, and we will be in place and ready before it actually any sewer starts to go into the system. So, Mr. Turner.
Thank you. Chairman Johnson, member of the Utilities Committee. I'm Bob Turner with the Engineering Department. It's been a while since I've been before the Utility Committee, and I'm glad to be here. The other thing, too, it's really very appropriate that I think I follow the last speaker. And what I want to tell you is something that we are doing, which I think is the right thing to do. As you know, and as Mr. Dawson and you've been told a number of times and very much aware, the Highway Department is widening Highway 73. This is about a $17 million project that they're doing. In conjunction with that, based on the policy that they will no longer allow individual septic systems or tail lines to be connected into the storm sewer system, the parish is funding a $4 million sewer line down 73. We got to have a place to take it. We've got to have a place to treat it. This is not a raw sewage in the sewer line. I want you to be aware of that. These are these tail lines coming out of individual systems, some of which are operating just fine. Nothing wrong with the effluent coming out of them. Others are various degrees of deterioration, but the net result is that we must treat that sewer that's in that line. In that regard, we have selected the parish property located at Miller Road and Highway 73 to site 2 temporary package treatment plants currently owned by the parish. One of them is from the jail that was taken out when we connected the jail to the Donaldsonville sewer system. So we have that plant, and we have another plant located at Lamar Dixon, which we will rehabilitate both of those plants and set them at that site. And we will then treat the sewer that's in the sewer line and discharge it in a responsible manner. And so I think that's kind of in line with what the speaker was saying. We clearly understand the need to collect and treat that, and we feel like this solution that we've got will last us for some time. The 2 plants together will be capable of treating at least 125 homes, and currently there'll be about 25 that will be directly connected to the sewer line at the outset. So we have room for growth in it, and we will do that. The project is estimated to cost about $200,000, both for the installation, rehabilitation of the treatment plant, a lift station to lift it into the plant, and then we'll have a discharge. There is, if you're familiar with that site, there is a tight triangle there and a drainage that goes from Miller Road around to Highway 73. In conjunction with what we're doing to make that situation all fit, we're proposing to make improvements to that drainage channel. We haven't got our information all together. We're surveying it. However, it would be my desire that we cover that channel, and it would make a nice site for the fire station. Currently, they maintain a very nice site. They have difficulty maintaining that channel, and this would assist them. If we can't cover it, then we'd like to do a concrete paved ditch that would be very attractive and also easy to maintain. That's where we're at. It'll be a temporary solution for hopefully a couple years. As it was mentioned before, we need to move to a regional plan at some point and discharge into the Mississippi River. But since this action is ongoing now and is occurring, we need to address it at this location now. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Bob? Thank you, Mr. Bob. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Item number 7 is discussion of our fact-finding trip that we took last month to Lake Charles and Morgan City. We have been, since we started this process, we were running multiple paths, I guess is what you would call it, to try to find some information out as far as sewer treatment in Ascension Parish. One of the things that we were looking at is the type of treatment facilities that we would like to investigate and find out, look at all the different types and technology that's out there as far as sewer treatment, and try to come up with what's the best fit for us from an economical as well as operational and maintenance standpoint of view. We have a type of system that's in the state, a fairly new facility in Lake Charles, and an older facility that's around 24 years old or so in the Morgan City area, which is called a interchannel boat clarifier. We took an opportunity, a few of the members on the committee that were able to go take a look at these two facilities, and from a standpoint of view of giving us the information that we need to go further and not only look at these types but other types that are out there and give us a place to start. I was very impressed with the overall facilities as far as their operation and maintenance, and how they are managed. It looks like we have a basis to start and compare other technologies that are out there. These facilities are in good shape, even though they're old, or at least the Morgan City facility is 20-something years old, and that's one of the operational things with it. It's not manned 24 hours a day. It's something that the technology is there, that they man it Monday through Friday, and they have the ability to check up on it remotely, and so the operational cost on it seems to be pretty low comparative to a 24/7 operation where you have to have operators on site and on staff all the time. Fewer moving parts. One of the things that we will be getting with Chuck and some other folks over at DEQ is, as we go through these systems and evaluate them from our standpoint of view, we want to get their take on these different systems and how they feel they operate and what's the ones that are going to get us where we want to be. We also have at the Lake Charles facility, they are doing what they call reclaimed water standards, which is something that is a source of potential revenue, additional revenue to the system operator, that you could sell this water off to industry or different things like that, as opposed to just putting it back into a water stream. As well as at the Morgan City plant, instead of paying for fees for the disposal of the solid materials, they are actually pelletizing these things and selling that to farmers and ranchers. So that, again, that's additional revenue source potential on the back end of the plants that they have there. Those types of technologies aren't necessarily strictly to this type of interchannel boat clarifier, but it is one of the things that makes it intriguing to me as an individual for the potential that brings to us as a community. I know Councilman Joseph, as well as Councilman Satterley and Turner made the different trips to those facilities. Councilman Kluart wasn't able to make the last trip to check those out, and I don't know if they've got any comments they'd like to express at this time on that trip. I'll give them an opportunity. Councilman Joseph.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the things, Benny named all the goods about it, but the best thing I loved about it was you can walk around it on the while it's operating, and the smell is not there. I mean, you can, when you're driving up, you don't smell anything. When you're in the plant, you don't smell anything. I was really impressed with that, and that's one problem we have with the sewage system, the smell. And so that's all I have to say on it. I have to just say it was a great system because of the smell for me. And the cost of it is, you know, they do have a good cost of it, that it does save cost for the community.
Councilman Sadler.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'd like to thank all the individuals who set it up. It was a tremendous educational experience for myself. Just amplifying the comments made by both Councilman Johnson and Joseph, I think the pellet mill situation that one plant had, the Lake Charles, and did not have, but wants to have, would be a good revenue stream potentially for the sugarcane farmers and so forth. And he mentioned also the potential to sell the reclaimed water. That was impressive to me as well to industry. If we, for example, find the funding and get a regional plant located maybe somewhere around the Mississippi River, and we could serve some of our industry partners there. And Mr. Joseph, of course, mentioned the smell. It was wonderful to walk around the gang plants and not have to hold your nose due to smell. I guess another thing, though, that impressed me that hadn't been mentioned yet, and so I'll put it on a table, is the fact that the state-of-the-art boat facility there in Lake Charles was operated by just 2 people. I thought that was very, very impressive because obviously it's, and I don't know a lot yet about other technologies that we're going to see. As we're all saying, it's a first start, but that's very impressive because it was a highly, highly sophisticated plant. And that would be maybe a 4th or 5th characteristic I like particularly about that plant, not just the 2 operators, but the fact that it didn't appear to me that you need a lot of contingency plans if you built 4 or 5, I'm going to just call them runs of these aerated boat Venturi systems, to where mechanical parts were limited to a little more than a industrial-sized big old pump. But if you had one sitting back, or you had the other runs that would take over when one would go down, you wouldn't even have a day or 2 involved in it. And apparently that's very important because of downtime. If the plant were to go down that way, a lot of these good bacteria and all that are converting the ammonia and so forth that's in the effluent into nitrates and nitrites and so forth would die. So, it looked like a simple thing with minimum maintenance as well as operation labor cost, no smell, the reclaimed water, the potential to pelletize some of the sludge at the end. By the way, I just want to say that was quite an experience for an old chicken doctor again. The sludge was like talcum powder, and at one point the operator dropped it on the ground, and you can just step on it, and it's just incredibly fine particle size, and it doesn't smell hardly at all. And certainly, if it can be used, for a farming venture, I think that would be good. But again, it's a first step. I'm glad that we're progressing this way. Tremendous education. Appreciate all the folks that put this together. It was a little bit puny that day, but they accommodated me wonderfully, and I thank everyone.
So, again, in closing on that, as we've all said, it's basically a start. It gives us a level of understanding of what we need to find out and go from there, and we can educate ourselves further in the process, because our job, as we see it, is to do our due diligence to when we finally come up with something that it's going to be the best thing to recommend to the people of the parish. And again, thanks for everybody that made that trip and the information that was gathered that day. And we'll look forward to doing a few more of those to investigate the other technologies that are out there. And we don't have that far to go. I mean, we've got 2 or 3 different types here in the parish that we're going to go look at, as well as some other things that are out there in other areas, and take a look at how they're working. So, thanks again. Anything else from anybody on that? Okay. Mr. Turner? All right. Item number 8.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Councilman Joseph, second by Councilman Turner. We are adjourned.